Have you ever taken a vacation or even just thought about stepping away from your business and immediately felt anxiety rise in your body? Because deep down, you know this uncomfortable truth. If you disappear for 2 weeks, everything slows down, breaks down, or starts calling you anyway. That's not leadership. That's operational dependency. I want you to really hear this. Being indispensable might feel flattering at first, but eventually it becomes a trap. One of the biggest misconceptions in entrepreneurship is the idea that being needed equals being valuable. And at first, feels pretty good. People rely on you, you know all the answers. It's awesome. You can solve problems quickly, better than anyone else. And you're the fixer. You're the closer. You're the decision maker, the memory bank. But over time, something dangerous happens. Your business slowly starts organizing itself around your brain instead of around systems. And that creates fragility. I learned this lesson years ago working in international shipping. At Greer Shipping, I stepped into export traffic coordination, dangerous goods permits, international logistics, customs requirements, load plans, timelines, regulations. It's crazy. One missed detail, you could create serious consequences. The woman training me was brilliant. The problem? She carried almost everything in her head. Now, here's the interesting part. What could have been seen as one of my weaknesses actually became a strength. I don't naturally retain massive amounts of procedural detail in memory, not like her. So instead of trusting memory, I started documenting everything: checklists, workflows, contact lists, timing sequences, expectations, and handoffs. I built systems because I needed systems. And eventually, those systems became training tools, operational blueprints, and organizational stability. That experience changed how I see business forever. Because here's the reality: if critical knowledge lives only inside one person's head, your business is built on a leaky bucket. And many small business owners are unknowingly carrying the entire company in their nervous system. Now, I understand why this happens, especially in small businesses. In the beginning, documenting processes feels slower. You think, oh, it's faster if I just do it myself. And technically, in the short term, you're right. It is faster to do it yourself. But over time, every undocumented process becomes future chaos. Because eventually, employees interrupt you constantly, customers experience inconsistency, training takes forever, mistakes repeat, team members become dependent, growth stalls, and burnout increases. And then something even more dangerous happens. Your business becomes emotionally exhausting because your brain never gets any rest. You're always mentally holding unfinished loops. Now, this is where many entrepreneurs misunderstand operations management. Operations is not bureaucracy. Operations is reducing unnecessary friction in your business. It's about creating rhythm. And I've always been fascinated by rhythm. When I was young, my dad owned the Brass Hub Inn in Radville, Saskatchewan. There was a noisy pinball arcade filled with teenage boys, cigarette smoke, flashing lights, and competition. I avoided it because I was very shy. But I spent hours behind a one-way mirror listening. So over time, I noticed something. The high score players had a rhythm. Their movements sounded different. They were smooth, predictable, flowing. And I could just hear it. You could tell by the sound that a high point player was playing. And one night after closing, I decided to test my theory. Instead of reacting emotionally, I played by rhythm because I knew I wouldn't be any good if I was going to trust my dexterity. So I secretly broke the all-time high score on the machine. Not because I was good at it, because I was replicating the rhythm that I heard from the high players, focused only on rhythm. And business systems work exactly the same way. Strong businesses have rhythm, clear onboarding, clear communications, clear handoffs, clear follow-up, clear accountability. Weak businesses, on the other hand, they rely on heroics. And heroics are expensive. If your company depends on one person constantly saving the day, the real issue isn't dedication. It's missing structure. Now, let me say something that may feel a bit uncomfortable. Sometimes business owners unconsciously avoid documenting processes because documentation forces clarity, and clarity exposes bottlenecks. It reveals inefficiencies, it exposes inconsistent decision making, it forces people to answer questions like, why do we actually do this? Or what is the best sequence? Or who owns this task? What happens if I'm unavailable? Documentation creates visibility, and visibility creates accountability. That's why scaling feels impossible for many businesses. They aren't scaling systems, they're scaling stress. Now, the good news, it is fixable. You don't need a perfect operations manual tomorrow. You simply need to start capturing repeatable patterns. Start with client onboarding or sales follow-up, invoicing, customer service responses, hiring steps, weekly routines, opening and closing procedures. Those are high leverage activities that they're important to the business. They're simple, like keep it very simple, practical, relatable. And remember, the goal is not perfection. The goal is transferability, transfer of knowledge. Can another human reliably produce the result without you standing beside them? That's the acid test. That's the real test of operational maturity. So here's the question for you. If you disappeared for 30 days, what would your business struggle to do without you? Because whatever comes to mind first, that's probably the next system you need to document. And once you begin building systems instead of carrying everything alone, you may notice something surprising. Your business becomes lighter, not because you care less, but because the business finally stops depending on your memory to survive.